Hi everybody, how you doing? I am coming over from Nick's live. It was a great live, great panel. But I just wanted to get on tonight briefly with you guys. And a lot of people have been asking me about the case that involves the tour bus shooting conviction that was overturned. So we are going to talk about that. One of the attorneys that represented me in the contempt ex parte situation is one of the attorneys who actually worked on that case, and he is here with us. But first, we've been talking about this over and over and over about voting for people and getting the right people in office. And I met a wonderful young lady who is running for office in Georgia. I'm going to bring her up, let her introduce herself, and let her hear from you guys before I bring Kyle up, okay? How you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Kayla.
Thank you for coming. So if you could just give us a little background about yourself, tell us what you're running for, and then before we transition into our RICO conversation, tell us your RICO connection.
Okay. Well, I'll start with who I am. I'm Sam Brown Parks. I'm a veteran, a family physician, and a mom of two. Lived in Buckhead for 24 years. And I'm running for State House in Buckhead and Sandy Springs. That's House District 54. Anybody who's been in Buckhead in the past 10 years knows that crime is pretty much out of control, and it's hard to go to Phipps or to Lennox without feeling like your life is in danger. So that's my real reason, is my kids and their safety, and that's why I'm running. But there's a little bit more to that, and this will bring us into the RICO story, which is, in spite of being a Buckhead Betty, I grew up in a trailer in a pasture in the middle of nowhere, Florida, worked on a farm, and my dad was put in prison. So I had to do everything I could to work my way out of that small town with no money and figure out a path for myself to get to do the things that I needed to do. And for me, that was the military. They paid for my medical school. I had no debt, which freed me up to be a family medicine physician and give back to the people who had always given to me. The RICO charges, so I feel particularly personally affected by seeing like two major RICO cases. And mind you, I have no real legal background. I'm a doctor through and through. I'll tell you about colds and do your pap smear, but I don't know a lot of law. But what I do know is that my dad, Roy Brown, was the first person charged with racketeering in the state of Florida. And it was on a real estate deal that was illegal. And because he was part of the deal and rented land, he was brought up with organized crime. And it ruined my life. What could have been a normal life working my way out of the farm turned into a constant struggle. And being in the prison system every weekend, other kids went off and played sports, but I got in the car and had to drive an hour to go to a prison to see my dad. So I had a very different life. And so I have a different perspective on the correctional facilities and how we handle charges, especially RICO charges.
So can you tell everybody when and how they can vote for you?
Oh, absolutely. So early voting starts in October, on October 15th. And if you are in Buckhead, Sandy Springs, between the DeKalb County line and Roswell Road, Peachtree Road, you are likely in my district. That's District 54. And if you can't make it out early voting, then come out November 5th and vote for Dr. Sam.
And why is it important to vote at this level?
So all politics is local, and the more you can control right where you are, the better defense you have from what comes down from the federal government, which usually isn't good for anyone, no matter what side it comes from. I'm very much a live and let live libertarian type, and I think that we need to have a better defense system at the local level to do the things that you need right here. And that's what I'm here for.
Okay, well, I know you have an important event to go to, and thank you for taking time to share your story. If you could just say your name and what you're running for and when to vote one more time before you go.
Absolutely. So I'm Sam Brown Parks, and I'm running for Georgia State House District 54 in Sandy Springs and Buckhead inside the perimeter. And you can start voting, early voting in Fulton County on October 15th at any of the Fulton County locations, and then at your precinct on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hi, Kyle. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, everybody, say hi to Attorney Kyle Winchester. If you could just introduce yourself and just give us a little background about yourself. Thank you for the super chat, Raymond.
Hey, everybody. My name is Kyle Winchester. I am a I do felony criminal defense attorney here in the Atlanta area. Do cases all over the country. I've been doing it for about 10 years. Got I'd say an emphasis in appeals and complex litigation, but I also try cases too. And the subject matter and topics of cases ranges anywhere from drugs and murder to healthcare fraud and securities fraud. So pretty much run the gamut.
Okay, and can you tell everybody how we met?
So we worked together as a part of a kind of tertiary element of the YSL case. I defended you in your contempt order with Judge Glenville.
All right, so just a little background. As you guys heard, he helped me. You guys know I had about 5 attorneys come to support me and represent me in my show cause order. And I think that one of the things that is most important about the legal community is how we are able to stand together and support one another when right is right and wrong is wrong. And I really appreciate Kyle for everything he did for me. He's a brilliant attorney, and he had a very significant role in this case before this was even a case. Well, before we knew it was a case. So could you tell us a little bit about the tour bus shooting?
So I represented Mr. Winfrey in his appeal of the Cobb County conviction.
Who is Mr. Winfrey?
So Mr. Winfrey is Jimmy Winfrey, who is involved in the YSL case now and who was accused in the Cobb County case that centered around the shooting of the tour bus for Lil Wayne.
Okay, and could you just give us a little background on what that case was kind of about and how we got to a conviction?
So the indictment, I think, alleged criminal street gang activity, aggravated assault, things of that nature. And it was in connection with a show that Lil Wayne had done here in the Atlanta area. And the issues that became important for the appeal concerned a motions hearing that Mr. Winfrey and his trial attorneys showed up to litigate a lot of motions to challenge illegal searches and seizures and things of the sort. But what happened there at that hearing was not litigation of pretrial motions, but instead a guilty plea. And whether that plea was voluntarily entered or coerced by the judge was the issue for the appeal.
So I guess, would you say that there are some similarities with coercion in this case?
So the 2018 case is has become relevant in the current prosecution because I think the prosecution in Fulton County has tried to use either some statements that Mr. Winfrey may have made during the plea colloquy or just the fact that there once was a conviction as evidence in the Fulton County case. And the defense position is that it shouldn't be used because the Supreme Court ultimately threw out the plea and said that the plea was not voluntarily entered, that it was involuntary.
Okay, and can you tell us how you became involved with that case?
Okay, so as I said, I've done a lot of appeals and still do a lot of appeals representing people who've been convicted of serious felony crimes and trying to undo those convictions. Mr. Winfrey's lead appellate lawyer was Steve Sadow, and Steve Sadow associated me to work on the appeal with him, and that's how I got involved in the case.
Okay, one second. I'm going to put this on the screen, 1 second. I'm going to put the case up. Now, can you explain to everybody that's joining us what we are going through?
So this, the document that you posted on the stream is the official opinion from the Supreme Court of Georgia. This is the decision that invalidated the guilty plea and held that that it was involuntarily entered. Basically, that it could not be used.
Is there any part on here specifically that I should go to? What do you feel like is the most relevant or gives the best explanation of why the conviction was overturned?
So if you look at, the rule that was argued over by the attorneys in this case is at the top right-hand corner of the first page, and it's called Uniform Superior Court Rule 33.5, subsection A. And the Uniform Superior Court rules are essentially local rules that govern criminal procedure in Georgia courts, including the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense lawyer. And specifically, Rule 33.5A prevents and counsels against the judge participating in plea negotiations. Plea negotiations are traditionally informal conversations and formal conversations between the lawyers, and the lawyers are trying to reach an agreed upon recommendation about how a case should end. And once they have an agreement, the judge then has the opportunity to vet the deal, go over the terms of the deal, and decide whether they will approve the settlement agreement. And the judge is within their authority to accept it or reject it, but the rules direct the judge to stay away from getting involved in the negotiations, and that was the problem in the Winfrey case.
So for you guys who are just joining us, we are talking about the tour bus shooting conviction, which was overturned, and why it was overturned. And you see, this is the opinion that was written, and you see here we have Matthew K. Winchester. That is who is on with us right now, and he's just giving us a little background as to how we got where we are. And I have a question. Do you feel like they should be able to use anything? Okay, well, let me take a step back. I know we got the conviction overturned, but did he ever enter another plea after this?
I believe there was what we call a remand resolution, which means that after the Supreme Court vacated the plea, basically sent the case back down to Cobb County to start over and do it again from that stage. I think there was another settlement reached, but it escapes me right now exactly what that was.
So do you, in your lawyer opinion, do you believe that they should be able to use things from the plea as, I guess, in this current case?
So the defense's argument is really powerful in this respect because the opinion of the Supreme Court of Georgia was not only that the judge violated the local rule, the Superior Court rule, but also that the degree of that violation made the plea involuntary to violate the Constitution. So when you have a plea that's involuntarily entered, it's not valid for any purpose. But it does raise an interesting question, because even though the plea is not valid, you still have sworn statements under oath, which may fall into some hearsay exception here and there, depending on the posture of the case and how those things come up during the course of a trial. But the short answer, I think, to the question is no. An unconstitutional coerced guilty plea is not. It's not a judgment that should be used in future proceedings.
I guess just for the viewers, do you believe that I guess you said that there was possibly you don't know the details of it, another plea entered. Should that be able to be used in this case?
I don't want to comment specifically on that, because I wasn't involved in this case at that stage. So I don't have firsthand knowledge, but traditionally speaking, valid voluntarily guilty pleas may be used in subsequent proceedings to do a lot of different things. You can be used to impeach someone if they testify as a witness. It can be used to enhance a sentence if you catch a new case. It can be used to revoke parole and probation, things like that. But those are valid, voluntarily entered guilty pleas, not one like this, which was an extreme circumstance to be found involuntary later on appeal.
And a lot of people have asked me this, and they ask me this every time I get on live, but can you explain what impeachment is, or as a witness, how impeachment is used?
So impeachment is the act of proving that a witness's statement is false, or it's untrue, or that it's not, or that there's a fact out there inconsistent with the witness's recollection. An easy example is in like a car crash case where a witness tells the police at the moment of, testifies that the light was green when the car went in through the intersection, but had previously made a statement to somebody else that the light was actually red. But it doesn't always have to be that binary. Sometimes it can be a witness's testimony that they recall that the light was green, and then in their prior statement they said, "I don't remember what color it was." It is the act of introducing contrary proof to show the jury that this witness has given more than one version of a stated event.
That's right. Okay, and hope. Go ahead.
I guess another part too is of impeachment is attacking credibility generally, right? So if you show that a witness has given two different accounts of the same story, that affects their credibility for anybody that's determining whether to believe what they say now. You can also affect that credibility with things like bias or prior convictions. Sometimes a jury hearing that a witness is previously convicted of a felony, especially involving a crime of dishonesty like fraud or theft or something like that, can affect whether they're going to believe anything they say now. So all of those different angles kind of fall under the big umbrella of impeachment.
And okay, I'm kind of shifting, but generally, okay, could you explain from your standpoint, because I've only had one of my other attorneys, which was Kristen, come on, but could you just kind of give a little background and explain what happened with the ex parte situation as it pertains to me, and just kind of walk them through that?
I don't want to go too directly into the situation of your case, but what we ultimately had to do was,
just the legal, why the legal part of why I was able to walk away.
Okay, so there were two kind of two steps that were taken. One was a motion to recuse the judge, which ultimately was granted, and the second was what the law calls a general demurrer, or a motion to quash the show cause order. So in any lawsuit, you have to have a charging document that lays out the the prosecutor's theory of what you did. In a contempt action, that's called a show cause order. And one of the mechanisms you have as a defendant, someone who is responding to an allegation, whether it be a civil allegation saying, hey, you went through the red light and you nailed my car and now you owe me some money, or a criminal allegation, you committed a crime, or an allegation that, you violated a rule and you should be held in contempt. You as a responding person can file under Georgia law a demurrer that says, even assuming all of the allegations in the charging document are true, you failed to set forth the violation that you're bringing against me. And that was one of the arguments that we made on your behalf, was that there were some critical criteria of a show cause order for a contempt action, an indirect criminal contempt action, that were not met there. Ultimately, there was no ruling on that. It became moot because the recusal was granted, but there were multiple layers of the defense, and that was one of them.
Would you say it became moot because of the recusal, or moot because Judge Glanville said he had no interest in moving forward?
I think it turned out to be both.
Yeah, both.
Judge Krause's order said that the motion to quash the show cause was moot because of the way that the recusal proceedings were conducted.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on here and just giving us a little background. A lot of people ask about that case and they're confused because they hear the defense attorney saying, don't bring that up, that was overturned, and they're just really confused. Do you know anything about the civil lawsuit? I saw someone ask me to ask you, do you know anything about the civil lawsuit with the
No information on the civil suit.
Yeah, we don't know about that. That's above my pay grade. Well, thank you so much for coming on and just helping us understand a little bit more about that. And once again, I really appreciate everything you did for me.
Thank you for having me. Hope you guys have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming to hear a little bit about that. I know a lot of you guys asked, what is this tour bus shooting that they keep referencing? So Kyle was able to come and kind of, this is the opinion. We can go through it a little bit. Tell us about what was going on. So, let's see. Sorry, I'm on two computers, guys. We see here that this is kind of the order. We see Kyle's name right here. He also had Steve Sadal. I think that was one of Gunner's lawyer, if I'm not wrong. But this is the order. Let's see. This is kind of appellant Jimmy Carlton Winfrey pled guilty to 6 counts of violating Georgia Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act in connection with a drive-by shooting of rapper Lil Wayne's tour bus on Interstate 75. Winfrey now appeals, asserting that the trial judge improperly participated in plea negotiations in violation of Uniform Superior Court Rule 33.5a. And let me see. I'm going to actually, hold on. Before we get into that, let's see. Let me take this. Oh, wait. I'm going to put this up for you guys. This is the actual rule. And it says that a trial judge should not participate in plea discussions. Verbatim. And I think that's exactly what happened in the case. Is that the trial judge participated in the plea negotiation and resulted in a guilty plea. I think that, that we talk about the Judge Glanville, and, there are a lot of things where judges walk a really thin line and have a level of responsibility to follow the rules, just like all of us. But in this case, it was overturned. I do believe that there was a plea that was subsequently entered, but the first plea was improper. It was coercion, and I think it's important to talk about that because we see here several layers of coercion with these witnesses. So before I get off, do you guys have any questions? It's Friday, so I'm not going to hold you long. I know we didn't have court yesterday or today, so I thought we'd do something a little different and just kind of get background on different pieces of the puzzle and just see, because all of it's important as to how we get where we're at. So I'll take a couple of questions. Jazz, what is your question? The judge's name is it's in the chat. It is. I'm gonna put it up here. That's the judge's name. You guys got that? All right. Well, I'm gonna let you guys go. What issue last night? What issue last night? I'm not sure. There was a conviction for one of the defendants in the current YSL case that was overturned, and they make reference to it several times throughout the trial. That's what we're talking about, the tour bus shooting. Oh, the contractor's being pulled off. No, I haven't spoken to anyone at the jail, but I mean, that is not shocking to me at all. Have you guys heard about what's going on? So it's my understanding that there was a bill of $1 million. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it went unpaid, which caused like a third party contractor to pull all of the employees, that they had working at the jail, which I believe leaves them significantly understaffed. And so it was $1 million. Okay, so I'm on track today, guys. This is very alarming to me because there are times where a lot of you guys know I don't live in Atlanta. So sometimes I fly home and I get to Atlanta. I call Atlanta home. I get there and it's late, but we can visit our clients at any time. But there have been times where I've gone to the jail at 10, 11 o'clock at night because I just have to see someone. It's pressing. And they tell me there's not enough staff for me to go up to the floor to talk to my client. So it's not shocking to me at all, guys. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to try to run back over to Nick's. So everybody come over to Nick's YouTube. Let me put the link in the chat. Let me see. Is he still live? Yes, he is still live. So let's copy. Everybody come on over. I'm gonna go back over there. Come on over. Head over to Nick's and let him know I sent you. I'm going back over. I am going back over. Does everybody see? Everybody head over. Tell them Kayla sent you. We have about 600 people on. Let's all go over there. Let's all go over to Nick. I'm headed over to Nick. I'm going to post it in the chat. Everybody should be over there. I should have 0 people on. Everybody should be going to Nick. Oop. Everybody go to Nick. Please. We are going over to Nick. See you over there. I'm going over here. Jackie, the link is in the chat. I'm going back to Nick's live. Click the link. Click the link. I'm going to leave this up for a while.